game. Blouses.
Gallon chuck.
Disaster.
Spaghetti.
Disaster.
Well, I mean, I'm no doctor.
We now join America's most popular show, already in progress. Everybody loves
Mitch and Sean. You guys are the greatest duo.
Fantastic.
That team sure did suck last night. They just plain sucked. I've seen teams suck before, but they were the suckiest bunch of sucks that ever sucked.
And welcome into another edition of the Post Game Pints podcast. I'm Mitch Gallo with Sean Campbell, and it's an exciting week. Another very special guest coming up on the show. You guys know we've been catching up with people specifically on the Montreal Canadiens beat. It's been a lot of fun. We're going to do that again coming up in just a few seconds. But first, Sean, I have a nice nor'easter from La Brosse, as you can see right there.
Oh, that's a view. I love that one.
I know Dave tried to do stopped in, picked some up for me. So thank you very much, Dave. And thanks to the gang at La Brosse for being such great supporters of the podcast. You know, Campbell, I love my Angry Gallo Ale. It's the dark beer with the splash of coffee. It's fantastic. But I don't know. I'm feeling a little frisky. I think I need a little something blonde in my life today. So nor'easter it is. And cheers to you, my friend. And cheers to the gang at La Brosse.
Yeah, cheers, La Brosse. And I'm going with the Campbell play-by-play IPA, getting ready for Super Bowl weekend. And check it out, labrosse.com for all their hours. And now that curfews and hours are changing, so just make sure you check before you go. But go get your Angry Gallo Ale and your Campbell play-by-play IPA. I do recommend the nor'easter. It is. I had it last episode. Absolutely great. So the Post Game Pints podcast brought to you by La Brosse Brewery. And Mitch, I also want to give a shout out to Cunningham's Pub, who's joined the fray here on Post Game Pints. And make sure you pay attention to each and every podcast, because on our Facebook page, go like our Facebook page, go follow us on Facebook. We will be giving clues, and you have a chance to win gift certificates to Cunningham's Pub, who has the best chicken wings in the world. Just ask Halle Berry. So shout out to Cunningham's Pub. And check our Facebook. Go like, subscribe to our Facebook page. We put up all the episodes, and every episode we give a little bit of a clue, and you have your chance to win. Yeah, Sean, you gave me a big-time craving. We know that Wednesdays is wing night at Cunningham's. You're not exaggerating. Sometimes, we'll exaggerate to make a point. I might do that from time to time, but when I say they are the best wings on the planet, I'm not exaggerating. Cunningham's Pub. Thank you so much for taking part of the podcast as well. And I can't wait to get my hands on some medium wings. Campbell, I can't do the 911. Even when I have a nice beer from La Brosse in front of me, 911's a little too hot for me, but man, oh man, those mediums, they hit just right. Yeah, medium's a weird word to say that's a flavor that's good, but I'm with you on the medium. I could do 911, but not every day, but I like my spice. Speaking of spice, this guy likes to spice up your Twitter feed. As it's, we're going to bring in our next guest on the Post Game Pints podcast. It's a lot of fun. Someone that I've worked with in the past, someone you've worked with in the past as well, Mitch Gallo. I know that it's somebody that you're looking forward to chatting some Montreal Canadiens with. It's been a while. It's Global Zone. You could actually catch up on his blog that he has, Call of the Wild. It's Mr. Brian Wilde. Welcome to the Post Game Pints podcast.
Oh, okay. Green Bay Packers. I can't believe you guys have your own beer. Oh, that's what you're drinking too. That's incredible.
Yeah. Cheers, my friend. Enjoy the Campbell play-by-play IPA, and to make sure make sure you have a Gallo beer after too.
I'm saving the Gallo beer because I like ales more than IPAs. So we'll drink this when I'm busy, and we'll drink the other when I'm relaxed. but I'll tell me about the backstory on that. I mean, how did? I mean, it's not often guys have their own beer.
Well, Gallo and I like to compete against each other, and our good friends Alex and Dan, who put that together, and Matt, who brokered the whole deal. He knew that we like competition, so he went to Alex, who runs Labrosse, and said, "Why don't you have these two guys make beers and have them compete against each other?" So we're trying to outsell each other on this beer. And
is that right? Yeah. How's it going?
I got a lead so far, but the IPAs sell well. But I will tell you, the Angry Gallo Ale is outstanding. I'm a big fan of the Campbell Play-by-Play IPA. But I'll tell you this, Brian, you said you're not a fan of the IPAs, right?
Usually, but that tastes pretty good.
But that's the point. This IPA is meant for those people that hate IPAs, and they try this. They're like, right? "Oh, I like IPAs."
I'm not surprised, because actually it was tastier than most IPAs right off the bat. Because usually I go like this when I drink an IPA. It's the only beer. It's the only beer I don't absolutely love, because I love beer. But that's probably the best IPA I've ever tasted. I'm not just blowing smoke. You're right, Campbell, that it's different.
And usually I'm on your side. That's why I made an ale, because those are my favorite beers. Like Newcastle in particular is my favorite.
Oh, is it darker, this ale, Mitch, when I open it up?
Than a Newcastle?
Or is it dark like a Newcastle? Is it like a redder ale?
Yes, it's like a Newcastle, except it's got more of even a brown tone than Newcastle, because it has a slight hint of coffee.
Oh, really? Oh, awesome. I love that taste. And did you kind of almost decide, like, did you work it out with the Labrosse, the people there, and say, "Okay, this is what I love. This is what I'm hoping it's going to taste like"?
Yeah,
that's 100% how it went down.
Yeah, we went there and made the beer.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
I mean, Dan,
I got a coaster once.
Yeah, Dan really made the beer, but that's okay. So Brian, I want to say thank you for joining us here on the Post Game Pints podcast, and we're here to talk hockey and Montreal Canadiens. And we thought we start maybe with some of the Montreal Canadiens prospects, because I know you love following the prospects. I follow your Twitter feed. You love getting into it. I want to get to the team today a little bit later, but is the prospect that you're most excited about Cole Caulfield, or is there somebody else?
No, it'd have to be Cole Caulfield, because the numbers are insane. And his release is insane, but the story is interesting too, right? Like, if he was a big guy and he had like a game that you talked about everything in his game, it would have a certain element of interest to me. But I think when he's so small and he's got one of the best releases I've ever seen, you then wonder if he can make that release at the NHL level. Like, if he could get that shot away at the NHL level, because if he does, it's going to tell an amazing story for all the small guys. And that is going to be super fun, I think.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. And I remember his draft really well, because when the Canadiens, always when they pick in the middle of the pack, Brian, I'm thinking, okay, where can you get the most value? And usually value falls on guys that are either undersized or that are coming off an injury, right? And I remember, I think it was Peyton Krebs in the same year. He had the nasty Achilles injury. I'm like, okay, there might be value in Krebs because of that. But Caulfield, he was ranked to go in the top 10. And then he tumbled all the way down to the Montreal Canadiens in that draft. Sean and I were on the air that day, and we're like, okay, are they going to do it? Are they going to have the balls to make that pick when everyone's criticizing the lack of size? But, Brian, if you look at the Canadiens now, and that's the thing about the draft, you always got to look ahead. They're not a small
point you're going to make
anymore, so they can afford to bring a small guy in my mind.
Yeah, I knew as soon as you got to it, I thought, I know exactly the point. It's a great point, because when they drafted him, it was like another small guy, and now you basically only have Byron and Gallagher. But both those small guys play big. Gallagher's he's small, but he plays big. He wins pucks like he's big, right? Yeah. So I don't think that anybody would. It's I remember that draft really well too, because Simon and I were watching the draft together, and by pick 11, I'm hitting him, eh? I'm like, Simon, they might get Caulfield. They're going to get Caulfield. And he's like, oh, okay, just drink. That
sounds like Simon.
Drink.
Yeah.
Just drink and relax. Okay, buddy? Just relax. We're at Big 11 here. And we got a ways to go. And then I was like, Simon, if Florida takes the goalie, get him. And so when they took Spencer Knight, I was, Simon, you're going to get him. And so the pick before is Cam York.
Yes.
And the pick before, the GM goes up and he says, from the United States Development Program. And I'm like, so close. It was so close. Cam York. And you're like, what? Yeah. And then the rest was history, because now it's like, okay, as you mentioned, are the balls there to do this? Yeah. And they were. And I think it was a great pick.
Yeah, I was there because I was on the floor, and I got a chance to interview Cole Caulfield right after, and it was the same thing. Gal and I are doing a draft show and chatting and going back and forth, and I'm sitting on the draft floor out in Vancouver, and I'm like, are they going to do it? And we're like, I think they're going to get him. I'm not sure, but are they going to pull it? And then they pull it, and then let's get to the person, Cole Caulfield.
Was he excited?
Yeah. Oh, we sat and we talked Packers because he's a Packers fan from Wisconsin.
And, of course, right?
But and we talked, and you just could tell that this was a dream come true, and he lives and breathes hockey. And I got a lot of insight that day about the person, and I feel since then he's got a personality. You could kind of see it on Twitter. He's sometimes, I don't want to call him aloof, but he just seems that hockey is his life. It's the only thing he wants to do. What are you going to be majoring in? And was, I don't know. I'm playing hockey. Like he just
exactly.
But to me, I don't mind that, because it's kind of like at this point he's so young. It just might as well be hockey or bust. And I think that's a good mentality for a little guy, just to have that one focus.
He's got great character too. I have a little story to tell. There's a lady up on my street in NDG when I used to live on Melrose. Her name's Kelly. And Kelly's husband passed of pancreas cancer, and her little boy is very young at the time, 7, 8 years old at the time, and was so excited when Caulfield was chosen. His mom made a video when he was chosen, and the kid's like running around the house so excited. He was almost peeing himself with excitement. So she sent me a file of the kid that excited. And I said, well, I'll pass this on to Dom and see what he says, because if the response was good, they were going to fly to Wisconsin, to Madison, just so Max could take in a Cole Caulfield game.
Wow.
But it all was incumbent upon Dom, right? Like Dominic Sion said, what, I get 1,000 E's, Brian, leave me alone. It wasn't going to go any further. So he saw the video, and the video was just so, it was so emotional. The kid was so genuinely excited that Dom said, well, all I can do is pass this on to Wisconsin, and then Wisconsin will pass it on to Cole. And if Cole is into it enough, he'll agree to it. So we got a response in like 2 days, and Cole says, yeah, come on down. And so he came down, and he saw Cole play 2 games. Cole scored in the one, and then he said that he scored for the kid. And Max was just so excited. And then Cole and Max spent a lot of time together after the game, just spending time with each other. And there's no greater gift than time. You know, if you spend time with somebody, that's the most you can honor another person when you're a guy like Cole Caulfield. And it was a moment like I don't think Max is ever going to forget as long as he lives. So Cole's got a lot of, good heart too, for what that's worth. A lot of good heart. Reminds me of Carey Price.
That's a really great story, Brian. And it just, it really outlines why I think it's important right now that we have NHL games on TV and people are able to watch games to cheer themselves up, like the story you're talking about. And I can't wait till we get back to regular life and we could have more moments like the one you're talking about.
Absolutely.
But we're lucky to have hockey right now. I do want to ask you because I'm not exaggerating when I say when it comes to Canadians prospects, you're among the best follows on Twitter. Like if you want the lowdown on what's going on, follow Brian Wilde on Twitter. You're going to know about the youngsters for the Canadians.
Appreciate
but
that.
My question to you, Brian, is do we at times tend to overhype prospects because they're in the Canadian system and we're hyper-focused on those guys? Like you mentioned Cam York. You mentioned Cam York. I'm like, I think
Yeah.
he's going to be a good player. And I see Zegras playing with Anaheim. I'm like, I think he's going to be a good player.
Zegras
And every team has these guys.
stud.
So what separates the Canadiens class of young players that we're seeing compared to everybody else in the league?
Well, you know, for me, that's a great question, because I remember a year that I was really excited about the prospects, and I can't remember who the first was at the time, but I was really excited, and I thought it was going to be a good year. And then I'll always read some of the people that are talking about it too, you know, from The Athletic and so on, and what they're saying. And they thought the Canadiens had a great year, and they didn't make a pro out of that draft, like not one. I mean, it was just a complete failure of a draft. It was around 215, and I think the draft was in Pittsburgh. It was just
the Pittsburgh draft. The Pittsburgh draft was the Galchenyuk draft, and it was actually a bad draft in general.
Exactly. But there was so much excitement. So I agree with you. You tend to hype up your own guys for sure. And all I can listen to actually is people like Trevor, because nobody compares their draft players better than Trevor Timmins, right? So, I mean, Trevor's not going to blow smoke when he thinks that he's having a great draft year and his prospects are better. But even when you think your prospects are better, like, it's still hit or miss. You know, like, I've watched Struble and Harris at Northeastern, and they both look great, but you still don't know if that's going to translate to being a good pro. I've only seen highlights of Norlander because those feeds from Europe are so bad. I can't put myself through them.
Yeah.
But, you know, he offensively looks amazing. But I don't know if that's going to translate. It's so hard to know if it's going to translate, guys?
Yeah, well, you mentioned like Harris and Struble and Norlander, and I talked to Habs fans who are like, oh, and they got these guys coming down the pipeline, and the Canadiens, they're going to have to trade a guy in a couple. I'm like, whoa, back up. They're not even playing pro yet. I know Norlander is, but it's still, like you said, it's hard to judge. But like out of all that, and I'm just watching highlight film, I'm like, how can I judge a highlight film? And and if I'm just watching highlight films, that's why you're right. You have to turn to the scouts and the people that actually watch them, talk to the coaches.
Yeah, you do. You absolutely do. Because, well, one, I mean, that's their career. So as much as you can say to yourself, you really know hockey, I mean, you got to also be humble. I mean, that's their career. That's what they do, is assess like that. So I'll always, you know, really, really respect the voices that they have. And if they really love somebody, you know, you got to love them too. You know what I mean? Like, the perfect example is Romanov. That's like the perfect example to be talking about what we're talking about. But here's what I tweeted. Who? That's what I tweeted when they took him. Who? Yeah. Like, you think you have done the homework and you know a lot of the guys. And when they took him in the second round, I was like, can I swear?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I was shitting all over them. I was like, what kind of pick is this? I don't even know this guy. You know?
Brian, I was in Dallas for that draft.
Yeah.
There was a gasp in the arena when they took Romanov. People were shocked. And that day, Trevor Timmins was so defiant about that pick, basically saying Central Scouting makes their list, and there's a bunch of publications out there. He's like, this is why we're hired to be NHL scouts, and we have our own list. We don't listen to anybody else.
Yeah. What a story. That's a great story. Talk about believing in yourself, eh? I heard after, I had never heard
scouts, you know, believe in the guys that are feeding you the information.
Absolutely. You know, I had never heard that story. The only one I had heard was that Timmins said we were worried that if we waited any longer, we weren't the only team that knew about him.
Correct. Mm-hmm. Yep.
So why don't, since you brought him up, Romanov, why don't you tell me what you think about him so far? Because he was heading into training camp this year, Brian. He was still the question mark. Well, like, the Canadiens are putting him on the team. I'm like, the guy hasn't played pro in North America. Like, I kept telling everybody, whoa, relax. If he goes to Laval, it's okay. If he sits out a game, it's okay. Now it's like, I want him to play 20 minutes. Like, it's just so much fun to watch.
Well, I mean, everybody talks about how fun he is, as much of a character that he is, and he's enjoying life and everything. But, you know, from a hockey assessment point of view, because I think that personality is important, because you're going to have to be able to shake things off like he had to when he got sat and not be a baby about it. And he was kind of treated like shit in the K because he was leaving.
So he was already showing his mettle. But from an assessment point of view, I mean, when you at the World Junior Championships win the Best Defenseman Award and are second another year, you're clearly a pretty quality hockey player. So I was pretty confident that he was going to be a quality hockey player. And so I'm not really surprised by this, but yeah, Sean, that he was able to, just step right into the lineup. And I think he was the second best defenseman on the team in his first game, right? Petrie was only better. I think he's got a long and great career in front of him, man. He's really, really impressive.
What are your thoughts, Brian, on the other young players on the Canadians, and in particular their center ice position right now? Because that position was a black hole for a very long time. Not a lot of depth and guys not playing in the right roles.
I like the right roles.
Like David Desharnais, I liked him a lot as a player. He's not a number one on a championship caliber team. Thomas Plekanec was a fantastic player, maybe playing too high up at this time. But what do you think of Suzuki, Kotkaniemi, and Evans down the middle for the Canadians right now, doing a lot with not a lot of experience?
Well, the part of that whole question you asked that I love the most is right roles. I think that was one of the things that was really hampering Bergevin from doing an excellent job beyond winning trades. Like winning trades is something, building a hockey team is another thing. And so if you've got, like you said, Plekanec as the first line center when he doesn't have the offensive upside for that, you're a team that's not in the right roles. So I think what you're getting at there is spot on. Nick Suzuki's looking like a first line center. And Jesperi Kotkaniemi's looking like a second or a third, and Danault is either a second or a third. And so you can just, who's ever hot that night can take the ice time. And Jake's looking like a fourth. I hope they sign Danault, and I hope he understands that with his offensive upside limited, that $5 million is a pretty darn good offer for him. Because I think that as that construction goes, wow, that is just, it's 20 years, 25 years since we've seen anything down the middle like that in Montreal. Suzuki's a point per game player. Wouldn't you agree, you guys?
Yeah, I've gone on the record. I think Suzuki could be more than that down the line. And I say it out loud, but I'm like, I shouldn't say it because that's too much pressure, because I think he's that good offensively. And just on that fact that Suzuki has been the belle of the ball, do you think that puts a little bit too much pressure on a guy like Jesperi Kotkaniemi, third overall? The Canadians put a lot of stock in drafting him as that center iceman. And now Suzuki is the number one center and Kotkaniemi is still kind of stuck in the middle. Do you think Jesperi kind of sees that and goes, oh man, I want to be what Nick is doing already, but he can't? Do you think that affects him?
I don't think so. I think he just wants to be a good, solid NHLer. And if he plays a two-way game that is reminiscent of Danault's, and I think he has the intelligence to do that, I think he'll be a very satisfied hockey player in the second center role. If you've got, let's say, in my mind, I've picked two teams that have, I've picked three teams now that have two first line centers. I picked Draisaitl and McDavid. I said, I can't make my point on that. Then I picked Crosby and Malkin in my head. And I said, I can't make my point on that. But anyway, I keep having my example not work because I've got two first line centers. But if you're on a team that is a first line center and the second is slightly less, I don't think you ever worry about that, because I think you're just sort of like happy that the guy ahead of you is so effing good.
Yeah. Well, hey, because
then you're winning hockey.
How about this for an example? And they were the best Canadian team in the playoffs last year. Can Kotkaniemi not be what Bo Horvat is to Vancouver?
Oh yeah, that's a good example. Yeah, that's a good example, and he can. And Horvat's an outstanding hockey player, and I don't think there's any inner competition that makes it untenable for either of them. Like it's not untenable for McDavid and Draisaitl. It's not untenable for Matthews and Tavares. It's not untenable. Or Malkin and Crosby, a 1-2 punch. If one of them gathers a little bit more points than the others, it's fantastic. It's awesome.
Just to your Danault point to wrap things up here, because I find that contract negotiation to be extremely fascinating. I straight up, if I was advising Philip Danault, I tell him if he wants to make a lot of money, go for it. But if he gets a contract offer of more than $5 million from an opposing team, if a team is paying Philip Danault $5 million, they're not going to be a good team. So Philip Danault, have fun on your team that isn't very competitive, because if you're commanding that much of a team's salary cap, that can't be you're going to a team like Arizona or a team that's in the situation Ottawa is in right now. Not to say Ottawa won't be good in the future. Like, you're going to a team that is desperate and paying because they're desperate.
You know, Eric Engels and I actually were talking on the phone this morning, and we were having the exact same conversation that you just started. If Danault leaves, I mean, just think how different that would be for him. You know, I mean, like, I feel like maybe he doesn't understand how good he has it here. You know, like he's playing where he loves. He's playing where he became a bona fide NHLer. He's loved in the room. The team is getting so much stronger. He could be a part of a Stanley Cup run. I mean, there's just so many things that are happening for him that are so good in his life. So if he got more than 5 from somebody, what would it be? 5? You know, yeah. After tax, that's what, $300,000. I mean, not to minimize the $300,000, we would die to make that. But you know, when you're making 25 million, there are reasons to appreciate 5 years of your life too. And let's say you went to like you said, a crap team, and now he's the number 1 center, and you don't get away with 0 goals in the first 11 games.
Yeah, but here's the thing. You talk about, Brian, you know, that he's got it good, but when this all started, it wasn't good with the Canadiens. I know they had a good bubble, but the team still wasn't. And then the offseason was everybody's getting money except for him. So there's a little bit, now it's only been, 10, 12 games of, oh, this is the good life. So now I think you see that with players, they'll kind of, after seeing how it works, I could see Philip Danault going, okay, now I see how it all works. I may have it really good. But in the offseason, he didn't know what it was going to look like moving forward. Yeah. So I think that time is coming this year.
That's a good point.
You know, and then at the end of the year, or when negotiations come up, he might be like, you know what? I kind of wanted that, but now I look at this, maybe I'm going to stay here. So
yeah, no, that's a really good point. I like your point. Yeah, right, absolutely. So, things can be pretty liquid.
Yeah. All right. I want to ask about one more player before I got a little bit of a pop quiz. We like to pop quiz our guests here on the Post Game Pints podcast. Campbell Gallo, Brian
I'm
Wilde.
nervous. I'm 57. I remember nothing anymore.
Yeah, that's okay.
I remember Randy's last days. That's me.
I just want to throw this out there. Another center iceman, and this is where you talk about gems in the draft and bringing out. It took a while, but you got Jake Evans in 2014, and Jake Evans is sitting there as a regular NHLer. I know it's like 7 years later, but it's pretty neat.
You know, when everybody was talking up Jake Evans on Twitter to me, and I honestly, I was really close-minded, I'll admit it, because I thought 7th round draft choice, there's no way this guy's making the NHL. And they kept talking him up. And I said, you know what? I better watch him. So one night I turned on the TV and I watched him at Notre Dame, and I thought, wow, he's a pretty good player. And then I watched him score with like 4 seconds in a playoff game. You remember that game in his senior year where Notre Dame moved on forward and kept alive, and he scored with like 4 seconds left. And I said, holy shit, this guy's clutch. But I still went 7th rounder. He's not making the NHL. Right. And now he's the quintessential 4th line player, isn't he? Quintessential.
I love it.
Guy who chips in every.
My favorite, you can finish this, but I love this because I watched, I do a Laval Rocket broadcast, and I'm watching Belleville versus Laval. And Laval's top line center was Jake Evans. Laval's top line center was Josh Norris. And then you go to the game this past weekend, Josh Norris is number 1 center, Jake Evans is the 4th. I'm like, that's where the franchises are. they were in their minor leagues were the number one centers. And now, and to me, Josh Norris, I watched him in the AHL. He was going to be a top 6 guy.
He was good.
He was good. But Jake Evans, I watched. He was a top guy in the AHL. I go, but he's going to be third, at best, fourth line center in the National. So you could see the style of play, but it's funny. You could see where the franchises are that way.
Yeah, that's great. I love that point. You guys make awesome points, all of them. Absolutely. That's a good analogy right there. And I enjoyed Evans too in Laval. I went to a couple of games. I love watching the games in Laval, you guys. Isn't it fun?
Yeah, it's a great building.
Have you gone, Mitchie, to Laval to watch some games as a fan or just as a worker?
Both. And
yeah, it's fun as a fan, isn't it?
Yeah,
I love the experience as a fan. And you know what? Brian, if I had kids or anything like that, I'd love to take them because it's a little bit more affordable. The concessions is more affordable. Yeah. And you know what? The rink is new, so everything is pretty standout. The fact is, now it's going to be even more fun down the road because that team should be more competitive than they have been since their inauguration.
Yeah, you guys are going to enjoy that when they are more competitive than they've been because the prospects that we've talking about. I mean, their blue line. There's no room in this blue line for them, so they're going to be like Strudel and Norlander, Gooley. Help me here, one more. Harris. I mean, that blue line is going to be
Josh Brook
too, of course.
Guys, where's Cale Fleury in this?
Oh my God, you guys, that blue line is sick. It's like 6 great prospects, that blue line. Wow.
Yeah, so they got and I, in the AHL, Gustafsson and Leskinen, they're good, and Xavier Ouellet runs the show. Like it just these are all guys. So on that note, Brian, before we let you go, and thanks again for joining us, and of course, Post Game Pints podcast brought to you by LaBrosse Brewery. Get your Campbell Play-by-Play IPA, your Angry Gallo Ale, your Nor'easter. And shout out to make sure you pay attention to what's happening because you can win yourself a gift certificate to Cunningham's Pub, where you get your best wings. So, Brian, look,
I love wings.
You could turn to Gallo for some help because I'm pretty sure Gallo can nail this one. Okay, so you can turn to Gallo. Gallo doesn't know the answers, but I'm pretty sure he knows it.
Is it a Maple Leaf question?
There you go. Wow, Toronto Maple Leafs, just like that. It is not a Maple Leaf question,
you guys. Look how nice, eh?
That's a beautiful.
47 brand makes the best stuff.
So the question is, I have a top 10 list. It's actually 11 players because there's a 3-way tie for 9th. There's 11 players on this, a top 10 list of the most points from an NHL player that Marc Bergevin drafted.
Marc Bergevin.
Great category.
Oh, yeah, I love it.
Way to go.
Top 10 points in the National Hockey League from players that Marc Bergevin drafted. Brian, if you need help, you can go to Mitch Gallo.
Yeah. Wow. That's a great question. I got to say that as much as nobody thinks he's any good anymore, Alex Galchenyuk obviously
number one answer.
Has to be in this. Right? Oh, so now is it Mitch Gallo's turn?
No, you go if you need help.
Oh, no, come on, really?
Gallo could run the table here. I know him. Gallo's the draft guru.
Draft guru too, but I don't have a memory like you guys do. I
have had a couple beers, Brian, so relax on the memory for tonight.
You got the number one, so feel good about that, okay? He has 321 points in his career. There's only 3 players over 100 points.
That's it, eh? Just 3. See, that's why you don't want to. Okay, so his first draft was
the Galchenyuk draft, 2012. The Galchenyuk draft.
Are any of the guys on the team now?
There's a couple
that he would have drafted.
There's a couple that aren't. There's a couple, yeah.
Okay, so the Galchenyuk. Okay, well, how many wrong answers am I allowed? See, I'm nervous to go because I don't want to be wrong. Brendan Gallagher, was he before Bergevin?
Yeah, he was before.
Gallagher he was actually the year before.
The year before. Okay.
Gallagher.
So the
Gallagher
first line, he didn't draft Suzuki.
Nope.
And he obviously didn't draft Tatar. And he didn't draft Gallagher. He didn't draft.
Just going down the lineup.
He didn't draft Anderson. He didn't draft Toffoli. He didn't draft Dano. Oh, he hasn't drafted a. Okay, and the fourth line is Lehkonen. Well, Lehkonen he drafted. Okay, well I gotta say
number two.
Lehkonen.
Number two.
So I'm going in order.
Arturi Lehkonen is number two. Arturi Lehkonen is number two. There you go.
Number two? Guys, it's going to be hard if Lehkonen was number two. Okay, so he didn't draft Byron. Jake Evans surely isn't on that list. He hasn't played enough games.
No, Jake Evans is not there. But you got about 2 minutes left to finish this. We're on the clock.
I'm not even close. Mitch, come on. Run the table for me.
You want some help? I can't run the table. It's actually harder. Campbell's making it easier.
Well, on defense, you didn't draft Weber. He didn't draft Petrie. He didn't draft Edmondson. He didn't draft Sherratt. On the back end right now. Romanov's only got 3 points.
You're missing two players on the team. You're missing 2 more players on the team.
Hey, Campbell.
Yeah.
Kotkaniemi.
On the team?
Kotkaniemi's number 5.
Mete.
Kotkaniemi's already on it?
Mete is number 8.
Oh, come on. Are you serious?
Yeah.
These are not very good results. Mete has 12 points.
Dave, you nailed 2 of them. Thank you. Dave Trenadui just texted me. He nailed 2
Campbell.
of them. Yeah.
Hudon?
Hudon is number 6.
Come on. Oh, but see, you understand why I did poorly now, though.
All right.
This is not a lot of points, you guys.
No, this is not a lot of points. That's why this is the point.
You know
of the
what?
category.
We should have put more time on this. This is fun.
Number 3, you guys should get. He has over 100 points. He's no longer with the Canadians. He has over 100 points. Number 3, Trenadui got it. He's not a forward.
McCarron?
Defender with 100. Oh, Beaulieu.
McCarron is number 9. Beaulieu wasn't drafted by Bergevin. McCarron has 8 points, and he's good for number 9. There's 2 other players.
Hard. This is an unbelievably hard question.
I got an obvious one.
Who's that?
Go.
Well, I just went through the first rounders in my head.
Yeah.
Sergachev.
That's number 3. He has 111 points.
Oh,
I think we have a minute left.
Hey, how about Juleson?
He has 8 points. He's good. He makes the cut. Another first rounder in 2014.
Sherback
has 8 points. You're missing 2.
I can't believe how hard this
Gallo, Seal. If I tell you Seal.
Seal?
Yeah.
Oh, Jacob Delarose.
Jacob Delarose is number 7. And number 4, you guys missed number 4. Gallo.
Colberg.
Number 4, he never, ever scored 10 goals in the National Hockey League in a season.
Sven Andrighetto.
Tom, here's the list. Top 10 players that Marc Bergevin drafted. Galchenyuk, Lehkonen, Sergachev, Sven Andrighetto, KK, Hudon, Delarose, Mete, McCarron, Sherback, Juleson. Points-wise, that's it. It's not a great list.
Good.
Hey, Brian, in 5 years from now, I hope that list is very different.
Well, how's that for your entertainment value?
They've done their job very, very well.
No.
Come on.
VBF.